Good evening and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. And yes, it is another Monday and basketball's messing up all these schedules. But that's okay because I think we both were very excited after Friday night's Golden Throne and the conference championships on Sunday. We didn't want to wait anymore. So we're here on a Monday night. Going to have some fun.
Yeah, it was just another crazy busy weekend with everything going on. You hit on an AFC, NFC championships. Didn't go quite the way we thought they would.
No.
So hence I have not posted our losses.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for picking the same as me. How bad my picks have been. That is a your problem. That is for sure. We got a jam-packed show. But again, first hour, very much NFL focused. Start to get ourselves ready for the Super Bowl. We do have 2 weeks to build up for that. So no predictions on this show as far as who we think will win the Super Bowl or not. We will touch a little bit on the Pro Bowl, but there's also a lot of news going on outside of those four teams that played on Sunday. A lot of coaches moving around, some rumors and all that stuff that we will touch on along the way. In the second hour, we'll start things off with the winning girls coach from the Golden Throne. Carly Stefanchik will be right here on the air around 7 o'clock to talk about the best game of the weekend between the Lewiston and Clarkston girls teams. They put on quite the performance. Both teams did. It was so much fun to watch. Then we'll break down everything else that happened during the Golden Throne week, who won the Golden Plunger, how much money got raised. If you were not there and have not seen all of the information that has been posted over the last few days, we'll break all that down as well as our different experiences. Me covering it for the radio, Robert doing PA for both of those games, and being there for the Golden Plunger Wrestling event on Wednesday. We'll touch on some LC sports. There's a lot going on. Did you know baseball season starts this week? And we'll touch on some other local area high school sports as well. Before we end the show with a lot of fun with some sports that don't get enough airtime and some nerdy talk. That's how we're going to end it. So jam-packed show, Robert. Are you ready?
I am, and one more we'll hit on it at the bottom of the hour too, or the end of the show. It's MMA time again as Conquest in the Cage gets ready to happen this weekend up in Spokane. We'll talk about that. And Clearwater Combat is coming back, so excited to talk that too.
No, I said, are you ready?
That's a good one. All
right. I think that's what I did for the Golden Throne. If I remember right, it was so
loud.
loud.
I could not hear anything. So I don't know what you did. Actually, before we get into the AFC games and really start breaking those down, we did have some fun prop bets going into these championship games. And like all of my predictions in the NFL this year, I stunk. I went 1-3. You went 2-2. No, to be fair, no, you went 3-1. Sorry, you went 3-1. I'll give you your credit. But the only one you missed, to be fair, was based off injury with Brock Purdy. It is tough to go over 220 yards passing when you don't have an elbow.
Yeah, and huge things coming out of San Francisco today talking about that. He has torn his UCL, so he's looking to get a second opinion, but didn't look for. I mean, as many times as I rewatch, as many times as you watch it, it looked bad coming through, but it just for him to hold it and you could watch, there was no lifting that arm whatsoever to even try to do anything.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the AFC Championship game. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs are victorious at home, 23-20. So that is now 3 Super Bowl appearances in the last 4 years, right? Cincinnati messed up the possible 4-peat of AFC championships, kept them away from Buffalo Bills territory, even though they did win one. But they do win at 23-20. It was a really good back and forth game. A lot of defense early on. You can tell these two teams have played each other several times over the last couple years. Of course, everyone was noticing how Cincinnati has been winning most of these games over the last several years. I took Kansas City as my loser pick. Very concerned about Patrick Mahomes' ankle. While he was limping and was favoring that ankle, he played pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite relevant, and that he was not 100% able to make a few things happen. Wasn't as mobile. Only had, I want to say, 8 yards rushing total. One on a huge there at the very end, that 5-yard run,
Mm-hmm.
and then hit out of bounds to get them in field goal range. But you know that Andy Reid and that Kansas City team is really concerned of what he's going to look like over the next
Are they?
week. I think they have to
Are
be.
they?
I mean, you think a high ankle sprain takes a little bit of time to get over.
Yeah, now you get 2 weeks. And this is what he looked like after a week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're worried anymore. And it's not like Mahomes runs.
No.
Like Jalen Hurts, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, the winner of the NFC Championship game, that's a running quarterback. He's going to run for yards. Mahomes does such a great job of using his mobility to create time and create space. And he didn't have a lot of issues. He gets sacked 3 times in this game against the Bengals. He was still able to kind of create some time and some space, and the offensive line played well enough to give him some extra time. Plus, I think Kansas City really changed their game plan. There was a lot of quick dump offs, and I want to say from the off and on ability that we had from watching the game, because we were bowling for the second half of this game, it always felt like if there was not one escape plan, there was 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd have the running back off to the side, ready to dump off, and you'd also have a wide receiver on the other side of the field, ready for Mahomes to dump it off to, just in case things happen, because they knew Mahomes was not going to be able to scramble like he has. And now with 2 weeks of extra health, will he be 100% during the Super Bowl? I don't think so. But if this was Mahomes at 60%, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, his 60% is really good, but I think you have to credit Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid with the designs of how they were attacking this Cincinnati defense. Cincinnati likes to put pressure on the quarterback and changing their game plan to keep the running backs in a little bit more in pass protection and quick little dump offs was an excellent idea. I mean, you could tell when Kansas City only rushes for 42 yards, that's totally flipping the game plan, dump here, dump there, but just a couple of times watching him scramble, in the one touchdown pass to Valdez-Scantling, he did not look like he was pushing off the front foot. He was up trying to get off that back foot up to the front foot to push off and put power behind the pass. That's the big thing that I'm worried about, is how is that bottom half of his body going to be able to pass the ball pretty decently. But like you said, we got 2 weeks.
Yep.
We'll see where we go in 2 weeks to how he is and what kind of treatment he gets over the next couple of weeks.
And to be fair, while he has 2 weeks to recover, Philadelphia has 2 weeks to game plan ways to make him uncomfortable in that pocket and get him a bit more than we saw Cincinnati do. The thing that really surprised me was how ineffective Cincinnati was at running the ball. I really thought that was also going to be a strength of the Bengals. They've been able to run it with Mixon and Pirine pretty well this season. Neither of them had good yards per carry in this, and they only had 13 carries between the two. It kind of felt like they got away from it a little bit, even though while they trailed for most of this game, there was never a point where you went, well, they really need to get going. They were never down by multiple scores. They were always down by one. Like if they were down, it was down to touchdown, and then you were really worried because you give Mahomes the ball while you're down a touchdown. You just feel like he's going to score and make it worse. Cincinnati's defense kept them in this game. I thought both defenses played extremely well. And again, that goes back to the point of they've played each other many times. So they know how to slow each other down. And in the end, it comes down to a bonehead play. Your old.
If you were to look up all-time bonehead plays,
with the unnecessary roughness. And listen, I was not watching this play for play. We weren't super focused on this. I went back and I've watched a lot of highlights just to get ready for this show. There's a lot of people out there complaining about the refs. I would love to get on here and make fun of Robert Taylor and say that Kansas City only won because of the refs. It's not true. They had a really weird play on third down where they stopped the play, even though they let the whole play happen because the clock started too early, even though there was no whistle. But then in the end, they punted a couple plays later. Anyways, they gained a couple extra yards, but there was no big thing there. I didn't like the intentional grounding call on Joe Burrow late in that game, but it did look like he was not trying to get it to anybody at all. Now, there was a running back in the area that they could have said, okay, that was fine. But if you're going by just the simple view of that play, Burrow was just throwing that into the ground. And that to me is intentional grounding call. But that unnecessary roughness is 100% the correct call. Now, does he hit him really hard? Of course not. But just don't put your arms out. Just if you bump as you're both running, it's incidental contact. But no, he stretches out his arms. Mahomes possibly flops a little bit. Possibly just goes, oh, I feel something. Let me go down. Or possibly goes, there's benches over there. I'm going down so I don't get killed like the defender did. But either way, it's a horrible, horrible decision by the defensive player. And I know he felt really bad afterwards. But that is not on the referees. That is a heavyweight battle that comes down to one play, and you just happen to make the wrong decision on that play, and it allowed Kansas City to get the win.
Yeah, Osai hit that. You're 100%. If he doesn't extend, it's the bigger thing. I think Osai got the worst of that going into the bench there. But Mahomes was a good step and a half out when he extended out. So bottom line, that is not a bad call. Both games had their share of calls that were very, very questionable. So
welcome to
sports, and that's going to happen. I mean, you look at the strike zone of any baseball game. I mean, how bad some calls are taken outside to well below the knees. So
go back and listen to my broadcast of the Golden Throne and listen to the lady 2 rows behind me, and she'll tell you how many missed calls happened in that game.
I heard
she was slightly biased, but she thought there were 87 missed calls in that game. There's missed calls everywhere. There's bad calls everywhere. And it's just one of those, it depends on who you're rooting for, whether they were very one-sided or not. Some of the bigger calls all seem to go Kansas City's way, but again, I think most of them were justified, or at least close enough for you to understand. But we just got to give props to Mahomes for pushing through this injury and playing pretty darn well. He did. Now, there's people out there that are going, this is like, I've been hearing different people saying this was Patrick Mahomes' flu game. Stop it. He wasn't barely able to move. He looked pretty good out there. We all thought he was going to be to the point of not being able to move, but he played extremely well, and he deserves to make it to yet another Super Bowl. And I don't care whether they win or lose in 2 weeks. I don't think any of us could deny anymore that Kansas City is a dynasty. Even if they lose in 2 weeks, and in those 5 years that they hosted the AFC Championship game, and in these 4 times, or excuse me, is it 4 times that they've hosted the AFC Championship game? Did I just give them an extra year? I think I gave them an extra year. In the 4 times that they've hosted the AFC Championship game, the 3 times they made the Super Bowl, even if they only win 1 time, the fact that they have been in this situation as many times as they have is very impressive.
I would agree. The big thing you got to remember when you start talking about dynasty is how consistent some of the players are during that time. You look at Patrick Mahomes, consistent through that time. Tyreek Hill, the 3 years that he was in there, consistent. Travis Kelce in that time. I think what's going to really define where they are in this one is going to be how well the offensive lines and how the defense holds up in this game. And you hit on it. This game was about defense, and you go that whole fourth quarter after P. Ryan scores. I think it's like 13 and a half left in that.
Oh, okay.
So then they go almost the entire time in that game where it's defense back and forth holding ground. So, you know, for me, that's what's going to define a team anyway, is how well they can game plan and strategize against these other things. And hands down, Kansas City had a better game plan for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and again, going through and saying, oh, they were better. It came down to one stupid play.
Mm-hmm.
That one stupid play doesn't happen. It'll be interesting to see what the Chiefs do with 8 seconds to try to get those 10, 15 yards, maybe to try that field goal. They were not making it from 60 yards. But there's a chance that game goes into overtime, and then we get the new overtime rules for the first time, and we see what happens. But that's the thing I want to take away is, was Cincinnati way better than Kansas City last year when they beat them in the AFC Championship game? No. It was a good slugfest. They just came out on top. Anybody going, well, the Chiefs were just so much better than the Bengals, and that's why they won this game. No. It just came down to the end of the game. Deadlock tied. A bad situation or a bad decision was made. The Chiefs took advantage, and they're able to get the win. Neither team can come out of this going, we are so much better or so much worse than the other team. And I think that's why people want to blame the refs, because you can't go out of here going definitively the Chiefs are the better team. Well, they won this game because of X, Y, and Z, and they're looking for scapegoats instead of going, you know what, that's sports. Sometimes it's 50-50, and at the end of the game, one of them has to win this game. It doesn't mean they're better. But.
Yeah, if you're a true fan and you're there and your team's out that you follow and you're watching this game and paying attention to what's happening, you were entertained as a football fan watching this game. And you know, whether or not the officials had anything to do with it, it boiled down to you know, you could make the comparison. This might start getting the feel of Joe Frazier versus Ali. I mean, you get that feeling of this is going to be some big over the next few years.
But we said that about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and now I'm starting to feel like, God, this is a horrible comparison. I'm so glad Robert Taylor's busy. I don't want him to hear me say this, but this is starting to get the feel of Tiger Woods, where he was. I mean, Mahomes is not past his prime, but that section of time when Tiger Woods had just dominated the sport for many years, and then every young golfer that came up, we went, is this his next competition? Is this the next Tiger Woods? Is this the next Phil Mickelson? And it just went on and on and on. And I'm just worried that we're going to go, is Josh Allen the answer? Is Joe Burrow? Is Justin Herbert? Is Bryce Young? It's like, how many times are we going to do this and go, well, maybe this guy, maybe Trevor Lawrence. Let's enjoy it while we can. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the answer is all of them. And we just have ridiculous playoff games all the time, because the AFC continues to show that they have just a slew of young quarterbacks that have been fantastic, as long as you didn't go play for the Jets. Just how it works. And by the way, I was right. It was 5 straight AFC Championship games. I forgot they lost to New England the first time and didn't make the Super Bowl. But before we move on to the game that was not as entertaining, let's talk about Cincinnati real quick, because obviously this ends their season. You know, they only gave up 44 sacks in the regular season, which compared to what they gave up last year was not a ton. You know, and even then, a lot of those came at the beginning of the year. Then injuries really hamper them late in the regular season into the playoffs. They end up giving 10 during the postseason, 5 of them in this Kansas City game, and almost all of them were just in crucial situations. Give full credit to Chris Jones and that defensive line for Kansas City for making that happen. 2, But now, if you're Cincinnati, last offseason, your number one goal was offensive line. You felt like you had fixed it, but injuries messed that up. Is the offensive line your number one priority again this offseason?
When you lose both one on each side of the line who were supposed to be the main guys there, they filled the holes pretty good. I don't know. For me, I think if I was if I was Cincinnati and I had one pick to go in the first round, I hate to say this. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to be the answer too much longer. I would go running back there. Then maybe the second round, I would be thinking about another offensive line. Love what they've got in it as a defense. So defense might be a little bit farther down the line in the draft. But if that was me, I would look for a decent running back in this first round.
And it's not even about the draft to me. I believe they have the fourth most cap space open right now, getting ready for this offseason. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of moves before the official start of the next season goes, when everyone gets that new cap space, and we'll talk about the changes that will go there here in a little bit. But Cincinnati's got some space to make some moves. Whether there's going to be some good free agent offensive linemen and running backs out there, and be curious to see if they go that route as well. Like, not everything has to be in the draft with this team, which you would think would be the case for a team making it to a Super Bowl and then an AFC Championship game. But they've done a good job with their cap, and they can make some moves if they need to.
And you said it. They're ranked number 4 right now in cap space with $44 million. So, I mean, a lot can happen in 2023 with them.
Now, they've lost at a Super Bowl. Now they've lost in the AFC Championship game. They're going the wrong direction. Do you feel like the window is starting to close on Cincinnati?
I don't think so. I think the chemistry that has proved this year with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, I think it's going to extend. Like I said a few minutes ago, I like Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's starting to be to the upper side of that.
Yeah.
20? I think he's 26 now, 27. And running backs don't stick around that long. So, I mean, I think that's the direction. If I was the general manager, I'd be looking for some youth in that position.
Yeah.
P. Ryan has played well. Mixon has played well. But I think they have to fill that and pound the ball a little bit more on the ground. So
Yeah,
I don't think they're going bad.
I can see them spending some of this cap space on defense and offensive line, drafting a young running back in the draft, and then just switching the roles that Joe Mixon was part of. Mixon was that young running back behind Giovanni Bernard, and that was a pretty good 1-2 punch. We can see that same thing kind of happen now with Mixon kind of being that old guard and having that 1-2 punch with whatever young running back they can get. I'm with you. The window is far from closed, I think, on Cincinnati, especially with, I believe, Buffalo starting to take a couple steps back. So I think Cincinnati is that second place team right now in the AFC as far as chances of making the Super Bowl next year. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into this NFC playoff game that I watched very little of because, well, why would I want to torture myself? It was ugly. It started ugly with the pass to Devontae Smith that looked beautiful, even though it was not a catch. And San Francisco does not have time to challenge it. Philadelphia goes down there and scores. Then the very next drive, Brock Purdy gets hit, fumbles the ball, which they called incomplete at first. Philadelphia challenges, and it gets overturned, rightfully so, if it was a fumble. So back-to-back drives could have been affected by better challenge usage or different challenge usage, and maybe the game is a little different. For Brock Purdy, he did go 4 for 4 for 23 yards. That's about all he got to do before he was hurt. Josh Johnson comes in as a former Jet quarterback.
Baltimore Raven.
Hold on, I will bring up the list. The list for Josh Johnson is the funniest thing you'll ever see. You knew the moment he came out there, game's over. There is zero chance, unless for whatever reason Jalen Hurts decided to throw 7 interceptions, and 3 of them were returned for touchdowns. This game was done. kaput, and no matter what they could. And then Josh Johnson got hurt. So then they were throwing out all sorts of stuff out there, just trying to make anything work. Just 18 pass attempts in a game that you were getting blown out from, just because that's all you could do is run the ball. And it is sad to see San Francisco go out this way. However, Philadelphia in their 2 playoff games have looked quite dominant.
Yeah, 100%. You feel bad for, like you said, Purdy. His 2 passes that he had prior, before he got hurt, was right at 19 yards, because his other 2 passes were a total of 4 coming in. Just because Johnson was hurt, they had to look a little bit different. McCaffrey wasn't doing anything, spectacular. So when the defense can sit there and key on Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, I mean, it just hurts watching that game unfold the way it did. It made it look like, okay, this is an old high school game now that you've got a guy that can't throw the ball. Here we go. Let's just run it. And so you feel bad because the 49ers made some big moves, get McCaffrey, traded to get McCaffrey. And you feel bad for that defense. I mean, that defense for San Francisco was filthy dirty. And they kept them in there for a little bit of that time.
Yeah, and then Joey Bosa got taken out at the knee while a punt was happening. That game was just nothing was destined to go right for the 49ers. And I don't know if Purdy is healthy, if they win that game, because that offense was looking pretty good. The 49ers, yes, the defense looked a little off compared to what we've seen. They've been fantastic all year. I think they were just kind of down, and they knew the game was done, and it was tough to keep that same energy level. They knew they had to play perfect. The moment they gave up another touchdown, it was like, well, that's just about it for us. So disappointing end for the 49ers. Eagles on to the Super Bowl. But I want to have a little bit of fun with you. We're talking about Josh Johnson and all the places he has been. Let's see if we can do this, all right?
Oh, boy.
Reverse chronological order. I'll give you hints along the way because I don't want it to take 10 years. Okay, he was a 49er since 2022. He also played for another team in 2022. Can you name that team?
Oh, dear Lord. No,
AFC West team.
Was he a Charger?
He was a Bronco.
That
was 2022. In 2021, he played for 3 teams. The one, he was only in the offseason. But can you name those 3 teams?
I want to say Baltimore was one. Was it
Baltimore was the last
21?
one.
Yeah,
Yep.
He was 2021 in Baltimore.
Yep. He also made a start for 1 team.
Did he play for Cleveland? He played for the the Jets.
Yep. Jets was also 2021. That's where he made the start because Zach Wilson was hurt.
And then, whatever. We're talking like 13 teams, right?
Well,
some ungodly number.
We're 4 teams in. We're just the last year.
Oh my
He was
God.
also on the 49ers from 2020 till the practice squad of 2021 or the offseason of 2021.
Jeez.
Before the 49ers, how about the Los Angeles Wildcats of the XFL? Before that, the Detroit Lions. Before that, the San Diego Fleet of the AAF. So he's been in all the leagues. The Washington Redskins at the time. The Oakland Raiders. By the way, we're only in 2018. Houston Texans, New York Giants, Baltimore Ravens again. Buffalo Bills, Indianapolis Colts, New York Jets again. Cincinnati Bengals. We're through 2015.
Oh my God.
San Francisco 49ers again. Cincinnati Bengals. Was that again? Or no? That's the first time with Cincinnati. Or second time with Cincinnati, sorry. Cleveland Browns. The Sacramento Mountain Lions. You know what league they're from?
Independent, some kind of independent league, maybe AFL.
The UFL, the United Football League. He was there in 2012. He was at the 49ers again. He's been with this team 4 times. And then, of course, he was there for 3 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the only thing he has not done is play in Canada. That's about it.
So,
by the way,
so we
career
can see
highlights and awards for Josh Johnson. He was the XFL passer rating leader in 2020. He was a 4-time All PFL, whatever the heck that is. Pioneer Football League. That's not even on this list. Pioneer Football League was where San Diego was playing college before all that got changed. So that was back in college. He was also the 2-time PFL Offensive Player of the Year, 3-time Division I AA All-American.
So
His
what
career NFL stats. I think he's played for more teams than he has touchdowns. 13 touchdowns, 16 interceptions.
That's just great. So what you're saying is we're going to see him in the Grey Cup next year?
He should.
Is that
He's
what
got
we're
to do something. I mean, he's only 36. Tom Brady's much older than him.
It's just crazy to think how these journeymen go all over the place and
Mhm.
just keep going and going. I mean, the one that comes to mind thinking about all that and might have a few more teams. Could you say Fitzmagic? How many teams
No,
did
he's done.
Fitzmagic pay? But I mean, how many teams did he play? I mean, we're
Not
already
that
what
many.
13 teams in for Johnson.
Oh, no, Fitzmagic was nothing. It was Rams, Bengals, Bills, Titans, Texans, Jets, Buccaneers, Dolphins football team.
Yeah, so I mean,
So he was at 9 different teams, but he never went to the same team twice. Josh Johnson has been on however many teams that ended up being, how many different teams, as well as 4 different leagues on top of being a 49er 4 times and a Jet 3 times. So dude's been all over the place.
and that's what and that's a tie. I just looked it up. So it looks like we said 13, right? Is that how many we said?
I have no idea. That was how many touchdowns he had.
Oh, so the person who's played for the most professional teams is JT O'Sullivan. He was a journeyman quarterback. He played for the Giants, played for Cleveland, played for Pittsburgh. It's just crazy to think about. Played for crazy amount of people.
I want to say this is 14 different NFL teams.
So he might now have the new record.
Not counting duplicates. I might have counted a duplicate because they're so spread out, but I think it's 14 different NFL teams for Josh Johnson.
So he must have. I would assume he's got to have the record now. So
you got to think it's pretty crazy. Before we get into a little bit of a preview of the Super Bowl, let's talk about San Francisco as we did Cincinnati. What is their biggest focus come the offseason?
You know, most people are going to say quarterback, but for me, it's got to be the protection of the quarterback. Trent Williams, a little hot-headed there yesterday at the end of that game. Him and Kevon Wallace getting into it. I think Trent Williams needs a little bit more help on that line. So, I mean, if I was looking, I would go offensive line there. You know, they've got Trey Lance. Jimmy G, you would think he is probably going to be on the move. Purdy has proven himself. I think for me, I think their number one need is going to have to be offensive line.
Now, just looking here real quick to see if there's any other huge names that were going to be free agents, and they're sitting okay. I mean, obviously, they're not going to keep Garoppolo.
Right.
As I think he will go somewhere else, which makes the injury to Purdy even more interesting. So now you got to hope Trey Lance stays healthy, or do you bring in another quarterback and try to make that work? I don't know exactly how long, Tommy John will affect a quarterback. You got to think it'll be like a pitcher, and he'll be out for all of next year, would be my guess without looking up any kind of information. So,
and especially
now that whole quarterback situation becomes even more intriguing than it was going to be. But I don't think they're going to go insane at the quarterback position.
No, I mean it just kind of depends, and with them holding off again, waiting for him to get a second opinion of what I've read all day today. If they keep putting things off, this could easily, most of these Tommy John things are 9 months easy, which would put him close to the end of the first quarter of the football season, if not almost halfway through. So
Yeah, they're saying at least 6 months.
yeah.
So maybe if he hurries up and gets it, he might be able to come back and be ready to go by week 1, but it would be really close, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to rush that. That would give Trey Lance a chance. So maybe you just go rock with those two and have a decent third string just in case things fall apart again.
And who knows? Maybe Johnson, stays with him. I don't know how long
Johnson doesn't stay anywhere.
But, his bags are already packed, so maybe he's leaving, going someplace else.
All right, let's get into it. Kansas City and Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. Again, predictions will be next week. I will give Robert all of my picks for all the different prop bets and stuff that we're going to do because I won't be here next week. It'll be Robert and whoever he gets to. Again, we'll see if he waits till next Tuesday to even start asking people or not. We will see. But I'll give him all my predictions and stuff. So all of my predictions will be available, and I'm not hiding from my horrible predictions. But we'll talk about it a little bit. And I just want your 3 keys let's go Kansas City first. The 3 keys for Kansas City if they want to win in 13 days.
So for me, the first thing's got to be that O-line's got to protect Mahomes. They got to give him a little bit more time. I do like what Bieniemy did and Reed did with the quick dump off passes, just underneath. Take the small ones. The small little 3-4 yard passes are as good as a run, and if they can keep things a little movement, which falls into my second one, is keeping Travis Kelce a big part of this game. If they can get those little dump off passes in the middle of the Kelce 3, 4, 5 yard gains at a time, just slowly moving the ball down the field, especially against this aggressive defensive team of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the big one, the other on my list is, yes, the defensive backs for Kansas City came away with 2 big interceptions of Joe Burrow yesterday. I think they have to play a little bit more aggressive against Devontae Smith and Brown, and just make sure that they are keeping pressure on with this team to, go at Jalen Hurts, make him have to make some indecisions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want them to play more physical because I think you're not going to out physical AJ Brown. And if you try to get too over the top with your physicalness, he's just going to beat you at the line and then beat you over the top. I do think secondary is a key for Kansas City. But I don't know if getting them to be more physical against somebody like AJ Brown is the answer, at least not at the line, maybe at the point of contact to try to disrupt him there. But he has made some ridiculous catches this year. And so has Devontae Smith, including the one that was not a catch, but it worked out that way. For me, I know you're talking about the dump offs and how it worked against Cincinnati. I still think they got to figure out how to get this running game going and be able to let Mahomes turn around sometimes and just hand it to whether it's Pacheco or McKinnon or whoever he's going to hand it off to, and be able to get 3, 4, 5 yards consistently on the ground and really work that clock and not put everything on Mahomes. Now, Mahomes is great enough that he might be able to handle it. But at some point, you have to be able to have a more balanced offense. And that's what I want to see from Kansas City in 2 weeks. I just don't know if it's there. That's why I was very positive that Pacheco was not going to reach his rushing total. And he did not. He had some good receiving yards, but just the rushing was not there at all.
Well, with that being said, I was going to say during the postseason, though, they're averaging over almost 4 yards a carry.
But they're averaging 4 carries a game.
They've had 69 carries in the 3 games that they've played. I think you're right. They need to step up how many times they hand the ball off. It needs to be a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, and I think most of those came much earlier. But that's just near Henry. And Kansas City has only played 2 playoff games, so I don't know what you're talking about. They had a bye week, sir.
I'm looking at the wrong team. That's why I clicked on.
There you go.
I clicked on Cincinnati and not.
They did not win.
I know.
Much as we thought they would. They did not win. The other one, you touched on it. It's down to the secondary. They have to play really well. It's a very young secondary. What was it, 4 or 5 rookies?
Mm-hmm.
We're playing in that secondary against Cincinnati, and they played extremely well. And while Cincinnati wasn't able to run the ball, the secondary, as you said, a couple of interceptions. There's a WSU guy out there doing a really good job.
Watson.
They need to continue. If they struggle in 2 weeks, Kansas City has no chance to win this game. I don't care how good Mahomes is. If they have a really off game, I don't even think Mahomes will be able to keep up.
So to correct myself, they have carried the ball 50 times in the postseason, averaging 3.7 yards a game and 93 yards.
Like too many.
Yeah.
Seems like they don't even run it that much.
That does not seem, yes.
They had 20 this last time, and 3 of them are Mahomes, and it's just not enough. They need to get more aggressive with the run. And to me, the main key and the main reason why I did not have Mahomes in my top spot for the quarterback rankings to begin the year, and why I wanted to be a little bit more fun and take the Chargers to win the division, even though I did say in in August that I didn't really believe it. I just didn't want to take the Chiefs. Was do not get too cute. This team gets bored in practice, apparently, and comes up with goofy shit. We had the ring around the rosy thing that worked well against the Raiders, and you're playing the Raiders. You don't really have to try. Kelsey is laddering the ball and nearly caused a fumble last night that really could have changed the game. Luckily, he got saved by the running back being able to pick up the football and get down on it. Then he thought about laddering it again like 3 plays later. Don't get too cute. Just do your normal game plan. Use all the weapons you have on the field. Let Mahomes do his thing. Don't bring out all these crazy gadget plays because it's going to bite you eventually. And the way the Eagles are playing right now, you cannot make these kind of mistakes and give them an extra possession.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
All right, how about for Philadelphia? What are their 3 keys to win?
For me, the big one I think is keep the balanced attack on the running game. Miles Sanders has looked good. Gainwell, Hurts, as much as Hurts being that mobile quarterback running, they have to keep things balanced. And they did this last week. They ran the ball quite well, 148 yards between 4 of them. That's including Scott in that conversation. But they have to stay balanced and keep that happening. Mm-hmm. For me, number 2 has to be the aggressiveness of the defense. I think they need to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. So whether that is stunting with your line guys, with Sue there, moving guys around, making things happen, disrupting things, it's going to boil down to defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon and what he does, whether he's blitzing, 3/4 of the time, 2/3 of the time. He's got to keep things active, keep Mahomes guessing and force him to move. And if we'll see where that ankle is. And 3, I think the biggest thing is control the clock. I mean, they held on to the ball this past weekend over 37 minutes. I mean, they're holding the ball, almost 2/3 of the time. If they can keep that clock in their favor, I think they beat Kansas City pretty handily.
I don't know. Calm down on the handily part. I don't think either team's going to handle the other team.
It's going to boil down to Mahomes and what his health is.
He's going to be fine. Period. If you're making your prediction based on the health of Mahomes, I fell for that yesterday. And now he has 2 more weeks. All right. I'm not falling for it anymore. My 3 keys are pretty simple. I'm with you on the control the clock thing. Keep Mahomes off the field. Yes, the 49ers offense completely imploded with the loss of Purdy and having to go to terrible Josh Johnson. But some of the drives that Philadelphia was able to do against a very good 49ers defense is what they're going to have to do. Open the game with an 11-play, 66-yard drive that took over 5 minutes for a touchdown. After Josh Johnson somehow scored a touchdown and tied the game at 7, do you know what the Eagles did? How about a 14-play, 75-yard drive that took nearly 7 minutes? How about in the second half when you're trying to put the game away, a 15-play drive that goes 91 yards and took nearly 8 minutes? You need 2 or 3 of those kind of drives against Kansas City to really have a shot. So number 1, keep Mahomes off the field. Number 2, put Mahomes on the field. Make Mahomes test that ankle. Hit him. As you said, you put in the pressure. You have to be careful with the roughing the passer stuff. And I'm not saying do anything dirty, but you want to get to him. You want to make him have to be helped up off the field because you've been able to get to him several times, whether it's a sack or you just get to him as he's throwing the ball, or you make him scramble, make him test that ankle, and maybe he tweaks something and he starts hobbling around like he did in the Cincinnati game. Yet he's going to make it work as he has done the last 2 games. But you really need to test that ankle and try to make him as uncomfortable as you possibly can. And number 3 is very simple. If Philadelphia turns the ball over in this game, they're going to lose. You cannot give this Kansas City team extra possessions, period. Cincinnati did that. They lost. Jacksonville did that. They lost. 0 has to be on that turnover board for Philadelphia to have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, and you said it. I think like you said, if you're going to test Patrick Mahomes, you've got to make sure the pressure. And watching what Reddick did yesterday, and I hate to bring him up because he's the one that hit Purdy, but you saw him flying to the ball and flying to the quarterback very frequently. And if he stays active the way he is, and you've got Robert Quinn down there, Josh Sweat, and Sue putting pressure up the middle, it's going to be a long day for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there you go. A little bit of a sneak peek towards what we think will happen in 2 weeks between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles as we start ramping up closer and closer to the Super Bowl. But now let's get to those other teams. There's 30 teams now that are looking towards next season, and many of them are like me right now, where all my focus is on the offseason and all the rumors going around is like, what exactly is going to happen? Are any of these rumors going to become true, or they just all fake news out there and like things are just going to be the same as last year and nothing crazy is going to happen? But some of these coaching changes have already kind of surprised me a little bit. I don't know about you, but Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys get rid of Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator, which shocked me. I think it shocked you as well. I was thinking maybe he would leave Dallas to take over a head coaching job somewhere. I know he's kind of been one of those hot names around, but instead he leaves Dallas on Sunday and signs with the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday to be their offensive coordinator. Good move or bad move for the Chargers?
I think it will help out Justin Herbert having a quarterback-minded offensive coordinator there. You're losing I think a little bit by losing, Kellen Moore, in the running back position, because Tony Pollard is a great running back. Austin Eckler, yeah, I think it'd be good. I hope that Kellen Moore can turn things around with the running back situation there, and it's not just Eckler doing everything. I think it's a good move for him, but I was shocked. I mean, his name was being thrown out there for the Carolina job, and some people are just better at the coordinator part than doing stuff as a head coach.
We will get to them shortly, but no, I think it'll be an okay move. I don't think it's going to be a huge step up for the Chargers. I don't think this fixes all of their problems. They need to fix a lot on defense as well. I do think this helps Herbert just a little bit, and we will see what it does with the running backs. I agree with you. Eckler needs help in the backfield, especially because, I mean, Eckler has done so much for his little frame that you just aren't expecting him to do. Getting him some help back there, continuing the balance. But there's some holes that need to be fixed with the Chargers, and for them to be able to figure out how to take that next step forward and how to not blow a 27-0 lead. I don't think Kellen Moore is going to fix all of it, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Frank Reich, go ahead.
I think having two younger-minded coaches together with Stanley and him might be a big plus for that organization too.
And honestly, maybe Kellen Moore goes there thinking that Stanley is on his last legs. And then he could take over the Chargers job. Maybe it's a smart move. Maybe he's playing 3D chess and we just don't know what's going on. Frank Reich, who was the former Indianapolis coach before getting fired earlier this season, already has a new head coaching job with the Carolina Panthers. I hate this move just for the fact that he just had this chance as a head coach. And it really failed. And there was so much more talent at Indianapolis than there is at Carolina. And I would rather see him go at a OC or DC position or an assistant somewhere and just help out a little bit instead of going, well, this failed. Let me go to this worse situation and make it all better. It just feels like a Lovie Smith situation to me.
It could be, but I think also, Jim Irsay is one of the tougher owners to work for too, and that's been put out there and said a few times. So maybe just the disagreement of how the team, what he was seeing happen between Irsay and him, Carolina's got to figure out their quarterback issues. That's their big thing. I think Frank Wright, with being where he's at age-wise, this might just be that feel of a Lovie Smith move.
That's not a good feeling.
Mm-mm.
Not at all. Mike LaFleur, the former offensive coordinator of the New York Jets, goes back to the NFC West. He was with the 49ers a couple years ago. He's now going to be with the Los Angeles Rams. Does he help them turn that around after such an abysmal season after winning the Super Bowl?
I don't think so. I think that's kind of taking two steps backwards.
He wasn't that bad. Zach Wilson was that bad.
You go from one big. Here's the thing. I don't think he is that guy that should be in a big market. I don't see where he was in New York.
I don't think offensive coordinators care what market they're in.
There's a lot of players, a lot of people that play up to the hype. I think he's one of those guys. He needs to be in a smaller market.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, you can go ahead and bash this one. I've been waiting for it. My New York Jets, we lose Mike LaFleur, thankfully. And who do we get? The old head coach for the Broncos we've been making fun of all year, Nathaniel Hackett. Go ahead, I'm ready.
I just want to know what his thought process is. Which quarterback is he going to keep on his roster? I'm like,
there's only one choice.
You had Russell Wilson, who comes in there to play for you, and you can't design an offense around him. Makes me scared of who he's gonna.
Listen, that's not his fault. We just all learned that there's a reason Pete Carroll did not let Russell Wilson cook, because he can't cook. All right, that's not Nathaniel Hackett's fault. But the answer is Zach Wilson will stick around. Everyone says, "Oh, it's Mike White." No, Mike White's done. He's not been good. It'll be Zach Wilson, but hopefully as a backup role to Aaron Rodgers, as I said last week before this move happened. This is going to just continue the Aaron Rodgers talk. The Packers have already said they want to deal him. So as long as Rodgers wants to come back and he wants to continue his Brett Favre path, the Brett Favre path leads you to New York, New Jersey. And we will see. But again, some people are just better coordinators than head coaches, and I pray that that's the case with Nathaniel Hackett. Speaking of former head coaches for the Denver Broncos, Vic Fangio, the head coach before Nathaniel Hackett, is now the defensive coordinator for Miami. Now, this move I like.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. Bringing in, they've already said that they're set on Tua, what they can do there. So I think having that defensive mind, it's going to be. I think what is Fangio now? He's got to be pushing upper 50s, if I'm not mistaken, age wise. I'd have to look and see, but
I don't
you know,
know. You're the
I
old man
think
of this show. You should know this.
I think it's going to be a good move for those guys. I think Miami had a great chance of moving on this year. Bad things happened to Tua, and I think that is why we did not see them farther in the playoffs.
It's
So
still a good move. Eric Bieniemy is getting. The story of Eric Bieniemy just stinks. He was getting he was getting interviews at 97 different places for head coaching jobs. Apparently, he's a bad interview, and now he's down to just getting offensive coordinator jobs at other teams. Hopefully, it doesn't mean he's leaving Kansas City because that's a great job for him. But
Vic Fangio is 64 years old, so
there you go.
it's a little bit older. Yeah, he's getting interviewed. That he wants the three big teams that are coming out of this right now is Washington, Tennessee, and my Baltimore Ravens wanting to get.
If
Eric
I'm
Bieniemy
the enemy,
in
I'm
there.
leaving Kansas City for any of those. Period. No, thank you. The NFL cap is going up $16.6 million next year from 208 to just under 225. That will make a huge impact for some of these teams that are right on that edge around the cap space. One of them being the Green Bay Packers, who were just about 16 million over the cap before this announcement. So they were trying to figure out how to make all that work with Aaron Rodgers, and now this will help them there, as well as some other teams that just have some more money to play with. Pro Bowl is this weekend. Do you care?
I'm excited to see the games after our games thing on our bowling league. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited a little bit more for these different things to happen. As far as the game itself, flag football, they don't play.
Football.
They don't play very. It's just another hype of Manning versus Manning.
No, it's. I do like some of the commercials between those two. They are making it fun, and hopefully they're mic'd up the whole time, and we can go with that route. But I'm with you. Tic-tac-toe was always one of my favorites. I'm glad they're bringing that back. I'm glad they're bringing back some of the other goofy games. And hopefully this whole week will just be a celebration and we don't take it too seriously and we will have fun. But in the end, I'm probably not watching most of this. Let's just be honest. Don't forget, while we are on the air tonight, it will be back on the air regular time next Tuesday, where it'll be Robert Hagan and somebody on the show, as I will be up at, I believe, either Lake City or Post Falls, covering the Lewis and Girls District Tournament play. And we will talk more about that in a minute. But we'll be back to our normal time next week with all of your Super Bowl talk. Maybe Robert will spend 30 minutes talking about the Pro Bowl because he'll get all into it. Who knows? But you are watching the R&R Sports Report. We will be back in studio in 2 weeks. So Robert will be, because Robert doesn't have a key to the radio station.
No,
he'll be on air.
Nor do I want a key to that station.
Right. So we'll be live, or he'll be live on air in 2 weeks' time for that. So I'll give you an update on that. But now it is time to bring in our guest, the winner of the girls' basketball game at the Golden Throne, head coach Carly Stefanchik. Carly, I have to say, and I said it on air after the game, and I've said it here before, that game on Friday night might have been my favorite game I have called in the 6 or 7 years I have done this job. What a blast those two teams put on Friday night.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. I still, talking to people today at work and stuff, I'm still getting chills talking about it and thinking about it.
Now, Robert, what was your take, Mr. Bantam?
Well, let's
about
see.
the Lewiston Bengals making this fantastic comeback, and you having to pretend to be happy as the PA announcer and be nice to Lewiston.
Listen, I've got a lot of things, and you and I had not talked about this pregame, but I've gotten to do so many games helping out Corey and Kevin what they're doing up there. But with everything going on with our show and all that, we've got to meet a lot of people. And now we have friends of ours, kids that we're calling. So having Savannah Burke on there, her uncle's a good friend of ours, Tyson Rowe. So it's names that we have dealt with in the past and we know quite well. So, I love Golden Throne, and so it's always going to be that game for me. I don't care who it is. We got to hype it up, and it's awesome. So with that,
we might have lost Carly. I think she froze. She's very frozen. There she goes. So right. Well, that went well. That was Carly Stefanczyk, everybody. Now she'll be back hopefully here in a second. Yay, technical difficulties. But while we wait for her to come back, let's just kind of talk about that whole night. I don't know if we got fully packed. I don't know if a full attendance number came out. Lewiston side looked extremely full, but Haley and Chase and Addie were able to come in for the boys game and still find seats. So I don't think we fully sold out, but that place was rocking pretty good.
Yeah, and I paid for it. It gets loud in there all the time, and especially down on that floor. And listening to the coaches yelling, players yelling, and this year I had some junior high kids behind me off to my right, and like you were saying, we had one Bantam fan that was directly behind me about 3 rows, and there was one behind you and over just the side. It was a little loud, but and the thing about it is, we talked about it. I mean, you're going to celebrate whichever team you're rooting for, and you could tell it was that environment there the other night.
Carly just texted me saying she is working on trying to get it to let her back. It kicked her off. So you gotta love technology, and that is the one problem with doing this online is we don't kick people out of the studio. We don't have we have issues at the studio, but we're not kicking people out and making that difficult. But it was such a fun time at the Golden Throne, as it always is. And this is the second straight year that I've been able to call it on the Lewiston side. Obviously, we didn't have it in 2020, and before that, I was helping on the Clarkston side of things. But you and I have worked many Golden Thrones over the years, and just it continues to impress me how invested both schools are with everything else going on. And one thing I do have to say, and I did flip you some crap after the game, that the wrong team won the throne. But Haley did point out to me, and maybe this is the reason why Clarkston ended up winning, and you can tell the cheerleading squad that they are the reason for the win. But she did notice that every time out, like the Clarkston cheerleaders went out, they did their little performances and did their little setup and really got into it. And the Lewiston cheerleaders just turned around and sung to whatever song was going on. And so give credit to the Clarkston cheerleaders. They were putting on a performance for over 4 hours in that thing.
Yeah, and you said it. What Paige Frazier and Hannah do for the Clarkston BAM staff, it's not always about what they're doing. They want to make sure that everybody's involved in, they were all clapping for stuff with the Lewiston cheerleaders too. So, I mean, it's a great feeling of unity, especially, everybody asked me there today. I had many kids ask me, what was my favorite part of doing the game, and them all coming up to me, the junior high, they asked me, was that you? And I'm like, yes, it was me. And calling the game, but just the camaraderie that happens with this group, and it's not just the student section, but it's how much the community has gotten into it, which impresses me the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And that not only shows at the activity center with how jam-packed that place gets from people that don't even have an association with a kid playing in the game, whether it is one of the basketball players, one of the cheerleaders, any of the dance team. that are there, but just want to go there and experience it. But those that help raise all this money, and hearing you announce that number on Friday and how much it crushed the record. I think the record was 18,000, a little over 18,000.
Yeah, a little over
few
18
years ago, and then $27,000 raised this year. Just shows how important this game is, not only just for the fun of that night, but it makes a big impact for the area.
Yeah, it does, hands down. 4 big charities that people look at, but I think it's the events that they keep adding to it. Tuesday, Clarkson High School had their drive-by and donate. They raised almost $1,000 just by collecting people driving by Clarkson High School on 6th Street, and I think they had a couple people down on Chestnut, collecting. And so for me, is turned down to being more about how much money these guys, but what the community does to bring it in. And we've shared it before. We have done it, and I got a whole new eye-opening and appreciation for Prairie and Grangeville, as they do kind of the same idea, and they do a huge food fundraiser, and that's how they stock their food banks, and watching that and to see that kind of same thing going on is awesome.
All right, let's take 2. Carly is back. Hopefully the technology works better. No, it happens. That's the one issue with doing the online shows, is you just have to hope all the internet works, and StreamYard is nice to everybody. But like we were saying before the internet cut off, just how wild that game was. Just kind of talk us through what was going through your mind throughout that game, because you and I have talked. It's been a rougher season, I think, for Lewiston with all of the turnover, and we might have lost her again. I'll take her off all that. We don't need that view. Hopefully that. Oh, there she goes. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. No. Okay. So quickly before I get kicked out again.
Right. But
I think.
Go ahead.
I think especially after halftime, we just talked being down 10. We knew we had to come out and apply a lot of pressure to them, and get to the free throw line a little bit more, and then just convert at the free throw line. I thought we left a lot of points there, more than we would like, but I thought we were doing a good job at least getting there. And attacking the rim hard and drawing some fouls from them. But I think coming in the second half, it was like a do or die kind of thing. We talked about that. We talked about we have to leave this game, proud of what we've done, and not leaving anything out on the court. And I think they did that.
Talk about Reese DeGroot, because I think that's the clear picture of the free throws you were talking about. She struggled there in that first half. She had a lot of opportunities. And then in the fourth quarter, she was locked in, and a lot of those free throws really helped you get back into that game.
I think that's just Reese playing a lot of basketball, throughout the years. And, in a huge game like that, free throws can be, just the mental part of it. Especially not seeing the first couple go in. It's hard to dial it back in and get back into your routine. But, that's what experience does for you. So, that really showed for her.
And you talked a lot about just a few minutes ago about the discipline of trying to get to the ball and disrupt, the Bams getting across the court line and come away with a couple big steals and some big shots. Both teams combined for 23 pointers in this game, and a couple no bigger than Savannah Burke.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, talking to our coaches after this was the best game we've answered people. We've gone through some slumps of, letting people go on huge runs, and we worked really hard to, chip away at their lead, but also answer in their big moments. Kendall Wallace is hitting big shots, deep threes, and we were able to have, composure and confidence in answering those big shots.
You and I have talked before about how important Zoe Kessinger has been to the offense, and her quick 3-point trigger has just continued to improve. She hit a couple of those on Friday that were phenomenal. But I want to bring up Dylan Albright and then Brianna Albright there late in the game with the 3-pointer that gave Lewiston the lead and the win by the end. But talk about them trying to get a little bit more confidence, especially Dylan. I think at the beginning of the year, watching the game, she was putting up as many 3-point attempts, I think, as Zoe. And I don't know if her confidence went away or the game plan has just changed. But it was nice to see her on Friday kind of have that confidence back, and she was hitting some big shots.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. It's all been confidence, watching, the first two go in. I think that just brought more confidence to her. And she's kind of gone through a shooting slump in the season. And, she won't see a couple go in and then won't shoot as many. But, Dylan is a shooter. I mean, she's always been that for us, but shooters go through some slumps. But I'm super happy for her that she found her rhythm. She was catching, looking to shoot. And we haven't seen Dylan do that in a while.
What did you tell your girls going into this game? Because this is the biggest game they have of the year that's not league related. What was the message going into this game there Friday night?
I mean, I just told them this is a game that you will remember forever. Like, no matter what you go and do, this is a game you will remember no matter what. Whether we win or lose, you will always remember this game. So let's come out on top. Like, I've lost to Golden Throne before, and I still remember everything about it, And so I'm like, you're going to remember it, have good memories. You need to go out, play together, and play really hard.
And what do you remember more, the loss or the couple wins that you had?
Absolutely how I felt after a loss.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to win a lot of games in high school. So I remember the losses a little bit more, but yeah, I definitely remember the loss.
Now, I have to bring this up. You were a Lincoln Lancer to start before you change colors.
Yeah.
Smartly change colors. Yes.
Do you, and I'm not asking if this is a regret thing. Do you wish you would have played for Clarkston during the high school times, or that big change, was that a huge part of your career at your high school level, which led into playing at Idaho?
Yeah. I think just growing up, I mean, I was always playing on AAU teams and stuff. I mean, the ultimate decision was my mom did live in Lewiston, and I was mostly living with my mom. And driving up to Lincoln every day was just rough. But I think, I would have definitely loved to play for Debbie Sabota. She was my coach at Lincoln. And I think it just moving over to Lewiston just made more sense for my family at the time. But of course, I mean, it was a bigger school playing 5A teams. We didn't not think about the athletic part of it. I mean, and it worked out really well for me, winning a couple state championships and stuff. But, I loved playing for Debbie and, getting to coach against her now. I mean, she's the ultimate competitor.
Did you guys have a good conversation before or after the game, you and Debbie?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we always do. We're always talking, texting, we're good friends.
So talk about a little bit of your career. Like Robert said, you did go play 4 years at Idaho, and we do see some players like Ashlyn Wallace from Clarkston going that same route. Talk about the experience you had up there with the Vandals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great. I really enjoyed my time there. I always wish I had more time there because it just goes by too fast. And that's another thing I try and tell my girls. This is going to go by so fast for you, even you sophomores who are on varsity. This will be just like a blink of an eye. You're going to wish that you could play in a game again. And, I try and get that across to them as I don't want you to all have a what if or regret of like just not playing as hard as you can and not making those really good memories with your team. Because, I'm getting older now and I'm like, yep, I would still want to go play back in college and play with my teammates again.
Don't even want to hear it. Stop it. But actually, my next question was the idea always to get into coaching? Because you was it the very next year or a year after that you got done playing at Idaho that you started coaching at Moscow? The year after. Yeah. I kind of took a little break from basketball, and then got back. The Moscow job came open and I was like, oh, well, I might as well give it a shot. I always kind of wanted to get into coaching and then just really fell in love with it. And then, started teaching. So I'm also teaching third grade down here now.
That's good. It's a big career change. How do you manage that? I mean, for me, I know it's tough to manage teaching math so much of the day, and then the mind switch has got to
Mhm.
change and go straight to, okay, how am I gonna? Where am I doing coaching today? Defensive minded, offensive minded. How do you manage that between your job there too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a big mental switch. You know, I with 9-year-olds all day, and then I come and then I'm with the high school girls, and so it kind of just takes a little bit, you know, that mental shift of okay, I'm the coach now, but you know, just it's a lot of prepping and planning and late nights watching film. You know, if we have to. Luckily, I have good assistants that watch film. And, you know, kind of do some scouting for me, and they're able, you know, if I have something for school, they're able to run practices, which is really nice. You know, it's just nice to have a really good support team around me where, you know, it doesn't feel like it's all on me to do everything.
So talk about the rest of the season. We're winding up way faster
Yeah.
than it feels like we should be. But final regular season game is tomorrow at Coeur d'Alene. It is. Did I read it right? We are locked in. We're playing Coeur d'Alene on Friday for the first
Yeah.
round of regionals. So
Mhm.
are there things that you are going to test out against them tomorrow? Is it going to be kind of a cat and mouse game tomorrow to not show them what you want to see on Friday, or is it just try to play your best and try to get the win?
I mean, honestly, you know, especially at practice today, you know, I talked to some of my coaches. I'm like, okay, we know Coeur d'Alene really well. I mean, we know what they're going to bring. And part of me, I'm like, we need to work on ourselves, and we need to, you know, what do we need to do to get better for now and in the future kind of things. You know, and in regionals, and what do we need to do? Fine tune now, you know, our girls know what to do. We saw it on Friday. I think that's our biggest like momentum. You know, we're riding that train of Golden Throne of we can do it and we can play and we can beat really good teams. I think if we come in with that kind of mental, you know, toughness, then we'll be fine.
So how can you keep that momentum going? Because obviously, like, scoring over 70 points, I think it's the first time in like 5 years the Lewiston girls have scored more than 70 points and going up against a good Clarkson team. Do we just need to bring 3,500 people to Coeur d'Alene on Friday to
Yeah, right.
continue this? Or?
No, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just, I mean, I saw girls shooting and catching the ball ready to shoot with confidence like I've never seen. You know, and just having that and having their teammates believe in them and passing the ball, moving the ball, and playing together. You know, I think that was a big shift for us. You know, just believing in each other. And so we definitely need to carry that with us. You know, just playing together as a team.
It looks like the chemistry has finally got together where you're not relying just on Zoe all the time. Savannah handling the ball, and even both Albright girls have getting the feel of you can trust the ball whichever direction you're going. Because listening, I had the opportunity to sit next to you, so I was able to hear calling some of your plays, and you balanced them out, getting them to different people at different parts of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've talked about it a lot openly. I'm like, we can't put so much pressure on Zoe all the time. Usually she has the best defensive assignment as well. So, I mean, there's been times where it's just sometimes too much. You know, I mean, our other guards, you know, have one-on-ones with them, and you need to step up and be able to take care of the ball. And I don't want Zoe, you know, because they usually put the best defender on Zoe as well. And sometimes I don't want her running the play. I want somebody else doing it to relieve some pressure from her. So I think just practicing that in practice as well. Like, okay, Zoe, you're not getting an outlet today. You know, we are going to make the other guards have to get the ball and have to bring it up. It was weird for Zoe at first, but I think overall it really helped the other guards, you know, pull their weight in that spot.
All right, perfect. All right, now we're going to get to the fun part of this show where Robert's going to give you the most hard-hitting questions you've ever gotten in any interview ever. So I want you to be prepared and be ready to go because Robert's got some tough ones for you.
This is where we get to know who you are as a person a little bit more, not just as a coach or stuff. So first of all, what's your favorite board game? You like playing board games?
Ooh, yeah, I would say Sorry.
That has been a common one, especially with some of the LC girls. All right. I think I remember one, but I'm not mistaken. What was one of your nicknames in high school or college that you had?
Oh man. What'd you say? My husband said something. Okay, one of there was a fan that called me Sparky. Oh man, what are you thinking of?
I thought there was one. I thought that was one. I remember hearing in there with Bill, one of the announcers. He used to announce playing basketball, and that was one that I had remembered was Sparky. He was one that
Yep,
told me
he
about
still
that.
comes. He still comes to the bench before every game almost and
Yep.
hugs me and says, "Good luck, Sparky."
Yep. How about a hidden talent? You're a heck of a basketball player. Do you have any other hidden talents?
I like to say singing, but it's not. It's a joke. I like to think that I can sing, but I can't. Hidden talents. Oh goodness. I actually. Ooh. I would say I'm pretty good at memorizing song lyrics.
There you go.
There
I
you
like
go.
that one. All right. I know it's hard. It is for me. What is your lazy go-to dinner? By the time you're done coaching and teaching all day, you got to have a favorite. Just okay. I got an easy go-to dinner. What is it?
At home or I'm driving through a drive-through?
Yeah, at home.
At home. I would say it's spaghetti with like a jar of sauce and a can of green beans.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's
It's
pretty
quick.
easy. All
Yeah.
right, this one we've asked so many people. We have to do it to you. Are you a peanut butter and jelly fan?
Absolutely.
All right. What is the ratio of peanut butter and jelly?
I'm a half and half.
That's good. But who was it? Brooks last week told us he had to have peanut butter on both sides, which that's kind of me too. And then in the middle. Yep. So
nope, I'm one bread, peanut butter, one side jelly.
all
It's
right.
the easiest way to go.
All right. How about your favorite coaching moment?
Oh. Favorite coaching moment. I know it's hard to beat Friday night as of now. I would say, the memorable ones, both Golden Thrones. And then I would say my second year at Moscow High School, we weren't very good. We hadn't really won any games. And we beat Lakeland on our senior night. And that was pretty cool, to see those girls win on their senior night.
So I have to say, because I looked over after the boys' game, and I looked over at Brooks, and he was sitting like a proud papa on the bench, kind of leaned back while the players were over with the fan bases. There was too much commotion going on during the girls' game for me to kind of notice what was going on with you or how you were reacting. Were you able to kind of have that moment of just sit down and relax and look back at what had just happened that night, or was it just a lot of craziness?
I would say, I don't know at any point I was sitting down being comfortable, just with how the game was going.
Mm-hmm.
There was some big moments for us that we needed to execute. And if we didn't,
Mm-hmm.
Clarkson could have ran away with it,
I more meant after the game.
After.
After this game, was there just that moment? Like, was it a time before the boys' game started where you were able to kind of just sit and reflect on everything happened? 'Cause like I said, that's what it looked like Brooks was doing while he was sitting on the bench looking over. Like I said on the radio, he looked like a proud papa. But I don't know if you had those moments.
No, I think definitely, after giving people hugs and talking to parents and kids, and I think I went up to the top little room and just kind of sat and watched some of the boys' game, and just being able to just debrief and just talk about all the good things that happened was nice. I think I got to finally take a breath then.
There you go. All right, we're gonna finish this up with some fun word association. Just give you a name. You just give me the first kind of thought that comes to your mind for them, and we have a little bit of fun with it. We got Brooks emotional with this. It's not our goal, but we'll have some fun. How about Zoe Kessinger?
Shooter.
Yeah. How about Sydney Ariano?
I have two words: defensive specialist.
Yeah. How about Dylan Albright?
I would say, Friday night she's a shooter too, but I would just say hard worker.
Mm-hmm. How about Maddie Jackson?
Smiley, always laughing.
Mm-hmm. How about Savannah Burke?
Toughness.
Oh, absolutely. And Patience Patterson.
I would say grit.
Mm-hmm.
Has a lot of grit.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, we do it to everybody. We're not just picking on you, but Carly Stefanchik.
Me. I'd say competitive.
Yep. All right. Perfect. You went through that a lot faster than Brooks. Brooks took 20 minutes, I feel
Well,
like.
it's funny because I did something similar for the Golden Throne Assembly. I came up with, what each girl kind of was and their role on the team. So came a little easy.
We like it. So final regular season game is tomorrow against Coeur d'Alene. Then you go up and make the same trip on Friday. We'll have that call on the river up there, as well as Tuesday would be your second game, and hopefully we can continue on from there. The Inland Empire League on the girls' side is just a brutal run, but hopefully the girls can take something out of Friday night and make a crazy run out of it. But Carly, we very much appreciate your time. And again, I'm with you. That Friday night was memorable for sure. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even playing the game.
Well, good. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Carly.
Thank you. All right. That is Carly. I have to say it. That is Carly Wilson Stefanchik, because I've known her as Wilson all of my life. So good to have her on. Yeah. She has got these girls playing at their top level right now.
Yeah. They went through a lot. 6 seniors went away. The leading scorer, who was a junior, decided to stick with volleyball. There was a lot of changeover on that team. We've seen a lot of growth. And now you have 5 seniors leaving again, and you have to start it all over again next season. That's kind of the nature of the beast as far as high school sports go. But she's doing a fantastic job. I think we're lucky in this area to have some really good coaches, both at Lewiston and Clarkston, as well as some of the smaller schools that have really built some stuff up. We've had Zach Eastman on several times, what he's doing. A couple coaches in Colton that's been fantastic. So real quick, let's finish off the rest of the Golden Throne weekend. We touched on some of it while Carly was fixing some internet issues, but you were up there for the Golden Plunger, where Lewiston was able to win. However, it was a lot because Clarkston came in pretty banged up.
Yeah, lots of injuries there. They had 2 at the they're at weigh-in were not able to go with injuries. One dealing with hip flexor, the other dealing with a bad foot. So Bantams ended up having to forfeit 5 matches, and then there was 2 double forfeits. So out of the 8 matches, it was a 4-4 split in this one. Some couple of big ones. Gabe Wiesa defeated Jack Brinkley by pin. That was a heck of a match. Another one that I think was probably the best match of the night was Hoyt Voss taking on and beating Dawson Bailey. Which I think Dawson and both of those guys, I think, will make it to state on their respective sides. They've wrestled each other.
Yeah, they have. Was it 3 times in the last couple of weeks or something?
Yeah, and they've wrestled themselves for a lot of years, so they know each other, what they're going to do. I see both of those boys making it to state. Gio Alba comes up with a win over Xander Johnson. Bodie Thieveridge comes away with a win over Gabe Ruth. Austin 9 beats William Mossman. Another big one. Brendan Phil looked unbelievable against Gavin Wood. He wins by points. Braden Jared comes away with a big win for Clarkson. And then Robert Storm, dude. Robert Storm has impressed over the last couple of years. He comes away a senior against a freshman. That's what I love about wrestling is you get the underclassmen against the other. The fun thing about Robert is he's always been that smiling kind of kid. He knew he had waters a couple of times. He looked over at the Lewiston photographer a few times and just smiled, looking straight at the camera, just smiled and come away with it. So, but if you look at it that way, the Bantams and Bengals split. But if you're looking at point wise, the Golden Plunger, the Lewiston does come away with a big win.
Yep. We talked about the Lewiston girls having that crazy win against Clarkson, 74-69. The boys also get the win, much lower scoring game, 52-40. Lewiston really was controlling the clock. It's because I had talked about, Lewiston likes to push the ball a bit more, and there's no shot clock in Idaho, and we're using Idaho rules. But usually Lewiston doesn't slow things down like that. But Clarkson was dedicated to their 2-3 zone. And I think the Bengals just went, well, if you're not going to break it, we're going to control this clock and wear you down until we finally get a really good shot. That worked out pretty well for them. And they did a great job of slowing down Xavier Santana. Now, I will say, as an outside viewer, the Bantams over the last week or two have really gotten other players involved when Santana was down with the injury. And Van Tine looked good. Josh Hoffman, I don't know what happened, but he was completely dominant in that first quarter and then just disappeared. I don't know if it was a game plan switch by Lewiston that shut him down or Clarkson went away from him, but Hoffman was impressive in that first quarter.
Yeah, for a sophomore, it was good to see him going. But Carly just made a good point about this too with Zoe is you've got to get the ball to somebody else every once in a while. And I think that was a big eye opener for Coach Justin Jones with Santana not playing well. He had to find a way to get the other guys involved. And they kind of did switch the role watching them play against West Valley the other night, putting Santana in more of a 2 role and not a 1 role. So ball was able to move around a little bit. Yes, he's going to get his touches. He's going to get his shots, but getting Carter Steinwan involved. Big thing with the Bantams with this game, really don't have a big. I mean, your biggest big is Carter Steinwan under there at 6'4", but he needs a little bit more weight to control the Austin Lawrence, to control the James White. You look down there a couple of times. James White is a big boy, and you put him up against Carter, you could tell the size difference.
Absolutely, it was a fun time. Obviously, the girls' game overshadowed everything with how crazy that was and how many points were scored in the crazy comeback win by the Bengals. But this was a good performance by both teams. Bengals do win both sides, but like we said, Clarkson does win the Golden Throne, as that is more of a audience participation. Spirit award is not about what's on the games. And I got in arguments with people after the fact of, well, then why even play the game? It's because it's a rivalry game and you want to win that game. However, the Golden Throne is something completely separate. It's what both communities have wrapped around these basketball games. And while the basketball games are fun and we're there to root on these two teams, the Golden Throne is a representation of something different than just winning or losing a basketball game. And it's what we have to remember. It's like, oh, it's a participation trophy. Well, kind of. It's a participation trophy for the audience members and what we do as a community for a week. And yes, the basketball is fun and you want to win the game. And I'm super happy that the Bengals were able to come away with the win on both sides. But in the end, it's not, oh, well, it's all horrible and we need to get rid of it. It is what it is. It's how it's been. And that was my favorite thing is people, well, that's not how it was in the 90s. Yes, it was. This is how they determined the Golden Throne.
1993, 29 years, and we talked a little bit about that. We did forget to mention just a second ago, and I know you're the one that brought it up. Xavier Santana breaks the record for the most 3-pointers in a career. So,
so he is now up to 9 because he had 7 last year. Again, he struggled a bit in this game, and he's just a junior. He's got another year to add on top of it. Like we said, Lewiston is out of town on Tuesday against Coeur d'Alene. I know Clarkson is out of town on Tuesday at Rogers. You'll be covering those games, so check that out to see how the Bantams are able to do back in GSL play. Let's move on to some college sports and LC, and it's a pretty good weekend for the men as they put a challenge against the number 1 team in the country, College of Idaho. They do lose 74-63. They were down nearly 20 points at one point, cut it all the way down to 5. I know when Danner had been updating me through the Golden Throne, that was a shock to me how quickly that number went down, but they do lose. But the freshmen are the story. Grayson Hunt out of Pullman was fantastic again. He had 17 points. John Lustig out of Colfax. From what Danner was telling me today, he is really coming into his own, and he's going to be really fun to watch over the next few years. He had 14 points. So the Warriors end up losing that game, but they are showing some great signs. Then they do get the win against Eastern Oregon, who received votes in the last poll. They're no pushover. They win that 86-79. Davian Brown, who's just a sophomore, scores 24. Lustig had 21. And Hunt finished with 17, while the Warriors were 9 of 15 from beyond the arc. Just a fantastic performance by LC. Now 10 and 11 on the year. And with a Walla Walla team who has struggled tomorrow, could be back to 500 back into their home court on Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to you and I will be texting back and forth as you're going to be covering that game there. So hopefully we can come away with a big win. But the impressiveness is how deep this Warriors bench is, and what they're proving is phenomenal for what Coach Johnson's bringing in. I'm excited to see what happens in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. On the girls' side, or on the women's side, excuse me, unfortunately, the winning streak is done. They do defeat College of Idaho 61-58. They outscored College of Idaho 21-8 in the third quarter to come back, take the lead. Hannah Broyles, Callie Stevens, Sarah Muehlhausen, and Ellie Sander all in double figures in that contest. But then they do lose to Eastern Oregon, who is 16th in the country, 85-79 in overtime. Snapped their 19-game winning streak. They jumped out to a 27-12 lead in the first quarter and just let Eastern Oregon kind of creep their way back a little bit. Had as much of a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter, just couldn't hold on. Hannah Broyles had 24 points in that one, but just a tough loss for LC. We'll see if they bounce back again. They're 19-2, and they had moved up to number 9 in the polls. So a fantastic team and a fantastic season so far. Like we said, they will be at Walla Walla on tomorrow night, and that is part of the reason why we're here tonight. Me and Bert Sahlberg will be on the call on KOZE, women at 5:30, men at 7:30, and then Friday back at home against Bushnell, women at 5, men at 7, and then Saturday they'll take on Corbin at home, women at 4, men at 6, and then once again I'll be on the call for that one. Obviously not on the call for Friday, as I'll be covering the Lewiston girls' first district game, but a lot of basketball action here in the area. Do you know what time it is, sir?
Well, it's about 7:30, but I think it's time to have another record-breaking performance.
It's track and field time, which means records are meant
to be
broken. Lewiston's Emily Collins set the LC record in the 400 meters with a time of 58.04. It's a second faster than what her previous career best was. It's also a B qualifying standard time, so congratulations to Emily there. Cynthia Smith set a personal mark with a 3.36 meter attempt in the pole vault. And Trenton Johnson, who we just talked about last week, broke his own record in the triple jump with a distance of 13.68 meters. He finished second in that event. Connor Turpin had a PB with a 15-minute and 9-second run in the 5,000 meters, finished second there. And Bryson Brown also had a PB in the 3,000 meter with a time of 8 minutes, 51 seconds, 0.8. That was a Whitworth Open that the Warriors were at. They'll be back in action again Saturday at the Eastern Oregon Invitational, and we'll see even more records fall, I'm sure. Right?
100% of what those guys are doing. I've been impressed. Talk about the tennis team. I read your article the other day. You had a couple articles come out about the tennis team.
Covering the tennis team. That's kind of my main role right now, working with Alicia. And what does Kai Fong do at the beginning of the season? He tests his team like no other, playing some really tough competition. Unfortunately, the women did lose all 3 of their matches down in Boise against 3 NCAA Division I schools. They lose 4-1 to Montana State and then lose 7-0 to both Boise State and Idaho State. But it's not the wins and losses there that matters. It's the competition that they go up against to start the year. We will see how that affects them when they open their home season on Saturday to the women, and when they take on Whitworth at 4 p.m. and then they'll take on College of Idaho at 10 a.m. on Sunday. All of those action over at the Activity Center. We went over there a bit to watch the men play on Sunday, and they lost to Seattle University 6-1. It gets loud in there. Some of the teams get into it and they have fun, and obviously the players love to yell at themselves. There was a player for Seattle University who is of Russian descent who was yelling extremely loud in Russian every time he would make a mistake. He didn't make many mistakes. He was very, very good. But Austin Swing and Andy Wu won in the number 3 doubles 6-4. And Declan Townsend had a great match. I got to watch a good amount of this one. He wins it in number 2 singles, 7-6 with a 9-7 tiebreak score, and then won 6-2 in the second set. The men play 3 times this week, all in Oregon, as they will take on Lewis and Clark College on Thursday, George Fox on Friday, and Willop and Jessup on Saturday. And that's not the only sport going on for LC, because baseball starts on Thursday. We get some early morning baseball action. Brian Danner will have all that action for you on KOZE as well, which is why I am helping cover the basketball team this weekend. But it's the big one. 4 ranked teams in 3 days in Florida. 10 a.m. local time. So 1 p.m. down there in Florida. On Thursday against number 4 LSU Shreveport. We saw them in May. Friday, 8 a.m. against number 8 St. Thomas. We saw them in May. And then also on Friday, 1 p.m. against the number 1 team in the country and your reigning, defending, undisputed NAIA World Series champion, Southeastern Fire, the team that beat the Warriors in the championship game last year. Rematch happening early on in the year. And then Saturday, 9 a.m. against Kaiser, who's also just the 25th team in the country. No big deal.
No.
And then while they're down there, they'll play Warner on Tuesday, but they're not ranked, so we don't care. What a crazy way to start your year.
Listen, I'm excited to see what this ball club has up their sleeve and what they can do. But, hats off to this Warrior team having to go against some big teams to see what they're made of early. And, and we've talked about it many times. It's not a gimme, you're into the World Series anymore. You've got to earn it. What can you do? What can you go? Especially against the Cascade Conference now. And I'm excited that we're going to be tested early.
Absolutely. And then you just hope you come out healthy. I don't know how much I can say because it is just like hearing secondhand. And I know LC likes to release this information or just not and let people figure it out as they go. But I do hear that there has already been not so good of an injury happening to a player that plays in the infield that may open the door for Cruz Hepburn, the freshman out of Lewiston, to maybe get some action. We will see how that goes. You just want them to get some really good experience in Florida and for all of them to come back healthy. That's the worst thing to see is all these players spending all winter and all fall getting ready for this season and then for injuries to kind of hamper that. It happens every season where you lose a player or two, and you just hope that these players can stay healthy through this. But I'm going to do everything I can to either listen to Danner or try to find feeds to watch these games because I am baseball ready.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know I've got parent-teacher conferences on Friday or on Thursday, so that will be on my computer, so I can easily turn it down. But yeah, listening to Danner call the game, so
absolutely
looking forward to it.
And I'm going to let you hit some of the other high school sports that have happened this weekend, but you cannot get through without talking about the former LCSC runner and now the current track assistant coach, Sam Atkin, who has been all over the world running. He set the British record for the 3,000 meter in a race at the John Thomas Terrier Classic at Boston University. He had a time of 7 minutes and 31 seconds, or 0.97 if you want to get technical. 19th fastest time in the history of that event and the fastest by any British runner ever. So congratulations to Sam there.
Crazy. You did talk about lots of things still going on. And I even tried to make a ploy for him. Case Wynot was at the Golden Throne the other day with his dad. They had played on Thursday. So tried to get him to come over to the red and black side, but I don't think that was going to happen. But hats off to Case and what he did with a career high 42 points the other night as the Lapway Wildcats extend their win streak to 53 games now with a 77-42
Crazy.
win there. Troy used a 20-5 second quarter to pull away from Clearwater Valley, 57-34 over the weekend to improve to 9-3. Pomeroy dropped a tough one in overtime to Tico Rosalia. Oakdale not part of them anymore. I don't know. It's that long named town anymore. 73-65. TR. Colfax locked up the number 1 seed in the 2B by County District tournament with a 60-54 win over Liberty. And John Lustig's brother Seth, who was at one of the games the other day, had 22 points. I'm excited. Could you see a possibility of him coming to LC? It'd be interesting to see.
He's got to continue to improve. I don't think he's up there with what John was doing, but he's still got a little bit of time.
Yeah. Kamea got their 10th league win this year with a 51-16. Yes, I said 16 win over Genesee. Girls action. Colfax remains undefeated with a big win over Liberty, 57-44. The Bulldogs are now 19-0. Grangeville starting to look a little bit better. They struggled a little bit in the Avista tournament, but they looking well as they won on senior day against St. Mary's, 58-21. Again, Lapway. You can't talk about any area of sports without saying Lapway boys and girls basketball. The girls are 20-1 on the season with a big 80-18 win over Logos. Colfax also had all 7 players hit for at least 1 3 in knocking off Garpal, 77-43. And Pomeroy held Tico Rosalia to just 11 points with a win, 58-11. Jelia Harris had 13 points, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Also, we look at some wrestling action. Hoyt just keeps things going. Hoyt Vass won gold in the 126-pound weight class. And then Moscow's Skyla Zimmerman took first in the 120-pound girls division. And Grangeville went 3-1 in the North-South duels with that. So,
yeah, Lewiston and Moscow in the North Idaho Rumble in that event. Couple of games real quickly on Friday that also happened. Brayson Reed hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer for Moscow as they beat Lakeland 63-61. Pullman, who Clarkson knows very well, they remained undefeated with a 71-61 win over East Valley. Jaden Brown. Yeah. Jaden Brown now over 1,000 career points. He had 22 in that contest. They're now 16-0 on the year.
We'll see them on Friday as the Bantams are on the road to take on Pullman up there.
Deary improved to 8-1 in league with a 55-38 win over Highland. Caleb Ricard had 14 points and 9 rebounds there. Pomeroy got a good win against Colton, 65-21, so they split the weekend games. There on the girls' side, Prairie had 30 girls over 20 points and an 85-24 win over Potlatch. Tara Schlater had a triple-double on top of it, 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 steals. Kristen Wemhoff almost had a triple-double with 20 points, 11 steals, and 8 rebounds, and Lexi Shoemaker had 20 points as well. And Pullman just continues to be impressive in league play after really struggling to start the year. They defeat East Valley 53-17. They're 4-11 overall, 4-1 in league.
Yeah, it's gonna be scary as Debbie Sabota takes those girls up there to play against them this week.
In other sports, college basketball, Purdue gets every first place vote. On the men's side, they're 21-1. Gonzaga does move up 2 spots. They're 18-4. On the women's side, South Carolina gets all the first place votes. They are 21-0, and Gonzaga does drop 1 spot. They're 21-2. Just real quick before I let you talk some MMA, looking at the updated scores. Let's see. On the women's side, LSU took care of Tennessee 74-68. So they hold on to their 3 spot. And the number 8 seed also won at home 87-66 against Penn State. Men's basketball, number 6 Virginia went on the road against Syracuse 67-62. And currently still going on, the 13 seed Iowa State has a 7-point lead over Texas Tech with about 6 minutes to go. And a good one between number 11 Baylor and number 10 Texas. Right now, Texas with a 5-point lead, 59-54, with a little under 9 minutes to go there. That was just one hockey game tonight. So we were not able to release the Kraken. I've lost it. I can't find it. There it is.
Release the Kraken!
Not release the Kraken as the Jets defeated the Blues 4-2, and the NBA's happening. There have been 5 finals in the NBA. Can you tell me how many teams have scored under 100 points in those 5 games?
0.
Correct. You are correct.
They do not play defense anymore.
Lakers scored 104. That's the least amount of points scored out of the 10 teams that have finished action so far. Mavericks right now 107-102 over the Pistons with about 2 minutes to go. 8 minutes to go with the Suns over the Raptors 92-89. And with 6 minutes to go in the second quarter, the Trailblazers over the Hawks 47-42. No defense.
No defense. That's so very sad.
All right, hit me with some MMA.
Hey, we got MMA happening, and it is exciting time
Mhm.
this weekend. On Saturday is Conquest of the Cage up at
But-
North.
But
I'm afraid I've got some bad news!
sold out.
It is sold out up at Airway Heights. So hopefully you know somebody that's going to be live streaming it. Been chatting with April, Dimitri's mom. She is not able to attend. So I don't know if somebody's going to be. So hopefully I'll be able to keep some updates.
Mhm.
We'll post those on Saturday. A couple of local boys that are going to be doing that. Dimitri Morales, April, is going to be fighting Michael Barrett up there. Drake Randall, who has been very impressive in his couple of fight debuts. He is taking on J-Mac, and then another boy, Melvin Joy and Dylan Swearingen. A couple of Lewiston guys are going to go up there and fight.
Mhm.
And Bryce Wyatt, Toby Wyatt's boy, we know Toby quite well. He is now fighting out of Spokane, but he was part of the Martial Arts America group. He is now up in the Spokane area,
Mhm.
fighting out a different gym. He is going to be there. I'm still going to bring up Bryce. Bryce is a great dude there. He had a couple of great videos, was able to stream those for us. So that is this weekend. So hopefully you have tickets for that 7 p.m. on Saturday. With that being said, Clearwater Combat has been announced. That's going to be on April 29th at the Clearwater River Casino.
I heard you're in the semi-main.
That-
I got you talked into it.
There's been some chatter because I heard from Brian McElroy. He's like, "Are you acting?" No, I'm not. No, they want to try to get me, but have not.
We still got to get up there and train, and
Gotta
maybe we get you hooked. Because
Yeah, there you go.
now that bowling's about wrapped up, I'm not afraid to go finally get this done.
Yeah. Tickets should be coming out soon. They still have not posted when tickets will start going on sale. I know Denise keeps going out and looking when she's been out there and watching their website. So as soon as we know, I will post it on the page and let everybody else know.
Absolutely. Auto racing, it's almost time for us to be able to talk about this again. The Busch Light Classic at the Coliseum. It was an interesting event last year. See if it gets improved on Sunday night, as they will be racing at the old Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, California. Just quarter track.
Well,
It's always
quarter.
interesting to see with the NASCAR cars out there. Bowling is also back. The U.S. Open qualifying begins tomorrow. I'm sure I will have that stream up in the background over the weekend and kind of see how that goes. Your stepladder final will be on Fox Sunday at 2 p.m. And we are about a month and a half away from Aussie Rules football. We're not dropping it. We're going to keep talking about it. And then Max Homa wins in the PGA Farmers Insurance Open. That's his 6th PGA Tour win. He continues to improve to get the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And I did hear a rumor that Joel Damon might be back this week or next week.
Yeah.
Hey, so he is
Well,
ready to go after having the baby boy.
you would think he would definitely be back next week because next week is probably his favorite tournament of the year, the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
Right.
So that is one of his favorite tournaments to play in. So I would think he would be back on the course next week.
All right, and then we'll just end it with some goofiness. Royal
Some?
Rumble was on Saturday. Give me a minute breakdown. Big things that happened for you.
So a couple of impressive things. I sat and watched this the entirety. For me, I think that one of the coolest moves I saw was the look that Ricochet and Logan Paul had that moment in the Royal Rumble. Both of them leaping from the top rope across the ring at each other, clotheslining each of them.
I heard somebody bring this up, and they said it perfectly. It was the dumbest move he has ever seen in all of wrestling, but it was also one of the coolest moves he's ever seen in all of wrestling.
Well, and that was the thing. I texted you, and I'm like, "What the?" And it was just crazy, and get a good laugh at it. Also, in that same match, you got to talk about Gunther and where he is. Heck of a guy, and listen to the press conference with afterwards. Triple H has nothing but positives for him. I'm excited to see where his role changes. So where things go. For me, I know it bothered Denise a little bit, but the ending of the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens match was a little tough.
It was so good.
I was more excited to watch Jay leave and walk out on the bloodline the other day. So kind of curious where that storyline
for
goes.
anybody that's not in the wrestling, I totally get it. I mean, we don't try to get anybody hooked on this stuff, but this storyline that they've been doing all year long, this is like 8 months running with Sami Zayn and the bloodline, and will they accept him, will they not? It's just the roller coaster ride just continues, and it hit a crescendo on Saturday that was just beautifully done. And the fact that it was Jay walking out when it was months where everyone accepted Sami except for Jay, and that became a whole thing. And then all of a sudden Jay is the one really backing him and saved him during the trial of Sami or whatever on Monday. And then to walk out on all that, just the eruption of the crowd when Sami hits Roman Reigns in the back with that chair is untouched. One of the best moments in all of wrestling, as far as I'm concerned. And hopefully they continue down the path and continue to make this storyline fantastic. Unfortunately, to me, I was curious what they were going to do with the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. It was garbage. I was not expecting, let's just turn on the neon lights and pretend we're bowling on Saturday night, which made no sense. Which, by the way, I don't know why we didn't think about that. We should have turned the lights on for the skills competition and made it even crazier. Maybe next year. But both Rumbles I thought were very satisfying. No, not a ton of crazy returns or anything, but just solid action all the way through. Rhea Ripley going all the way from bell to bell was very great. Seeing Asuka come back with more of her Japanese gimmick was fun. It was a good show. It was a good show, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, let's get into our bowling predictions. Again, if you're just watching the show and you don't follow our NFL bowling league, this is just for us. We're going to have a little fun for a minute or two. But unfortunately, I also got eliminated from the playoffs. So the R&R Sports Report went a combined 0-2 in the postseason this year. But we are down to 4 teams, and I need predictions from you. Who will be in the Super Bowl, Houston or Kansas City? So Anita Orton and Gary Packwood, or Dwayne Buttermore and Ray Jean Blanc?
Well, I feared we'd beat Dwayne and Ray pretty easily. That did not happen. They've been quite well. But this last week, Anita held Gary up. Gary had a little bit lower week. I think Houston ends up winning against KC 8-5.
Looking at the score sheets, I have not figured out where the actual points would have been. Kansas City would have beat Houston by 1 pin total. That's how close those two performed last week. Anita was picking up spares, and I think she's starting to figure things out. Gary, he is self-admitted, is a very hit or miss, a Jekyll or Hyde bowler. We'll see which side we get next week, but I'm going to take Houston.
Yeah,
that contest. On the NFC side, the Claffies of Seattle. Bold fans. Rick Claffey Jr. was unstoppable. They kind of let off the gas there at the end, but that game was over after the first game. But Seattle Seahawks will take on Travis Osborne and Michelle Carpenter of the Atlanta Falcons. Who do you got?
I am going to take a close one again, this one, but the Claffeys have just been too strong here in the postseason. They're going to win 7-6.
I'm going to take Seattle as well. It was funny to listen to both Michelle and Trisha like rooting for the other one because they didn't want to bowl anymore. So I think Seattle will win. Either way, I'm rooting for the AFC team to win in the Super Bowl, as neither of those two teams have got their name on the plaque, while the bowlers on Atlanta and Seattle have not had their names on the plaque. Seattle and Atlanta, the teams themselves, have won it before, and we continue to try to get first-time winners on there as well. And then one final prediction from you. Pro Bowl, AFC, NFC, who you got?
It's going to be a great matchup. I honestly, looking at the roster, and as much as I want to say AFC and NFC, Billy Kite and David Duffersberg is going to have something to prove this week. I think it's going to be a tight one, but I'm pulling AFC in a very close one, 17-13.
With the 31-point system, so that
Oh,
doesn't make any
7.
sense.
So I forgot we changed it to 31.
It's always
I
been
was
31.
thinking, so.
But no, it's going to be interesting. The Pro Bowl is always interesting, whether one team has a lot of handicap or not. There's less handicap difference this year than there was last year by far, with Billy and Doof moving to the NFC, which has allowed. I'm very happy that Ann Munsterman was able to get in. She's been in there once before. It'd be fun to see her and Katie go at it. Rick Claffey Jr. is going to have a lot of fun trash talking, as is Chris Carpenter. We'll see if they get a little bit too intoxicated during the Pro Bowl. That is our hope on the AFC side. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, I have to pick myself to win the Pro Bowl. See if I can repeat my 300 performance that I had.
Well,
last
listen,
year.
you should have been hands down unanimous MVPs. Let's see if we'll have
well.
another we'll see.
Apparently I need to go 850 to do that. But a bunch of jerks out there. Either way, Robert Hagan will be back on Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, I should say, with somebody here to break down the Super Bowl, go through all the prop bets, talk more local sports, maybe get some MLB in there. Who knows what they will talk about? I will be out of town, so I'll see you in 2 weeks. But for now, this was another lot of fun. Thank you to Carly Stefanchik once again for joining us. Are you going to be able to run the music when I'm gone?
I hope so. We'll play it and we'll be good with it. So I don't have your buttons, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with the buttons. So
we'll figure it out. I was gonna play one. We can't do that one. All right, I'm out of here. That's Robert.
Later.
I'm Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report. We will be back. Well, Robert will be back next week. But until then, we are out.